And I take the message with me to build highways for education.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Ciao.
Okay. It is the CDRSEE's honor to be here today, and I would like to thank you, Ms. Vice President Ulrike Lunacek and other European Parliament members for hosting this event. I would like to thank Mr. Commissioner Hahn for being here today, Mr. Svilanovic, our other speakers, ministers and representatives of ministers of education from Southeast European countries, ambassadors, representatives of civil society and think tank organizations, and many media. So welcome and thank you for coming. It was only 12 years ago when we published our first 4 joint history workbooks. You can see them here, or you could see them here in 11 languages, including the Japanese. They were welcomed warmly by many, but they were strongly rejected by others. We were even accused by some of attempting of recreating history and were judged in a manner usually reserved for enemies of state. It was to be expected, though. We knew that an unbiased, multi-perspective history workbook would be perceived as a serious obstacle, and so we remained calm and steadfast in our determination to continue. Even though it was unpleasant, we were open to criticism and to what was considered to be inaccurate. In the end, however, we didn't hear any arguments of this sort, but rather just remarks such as, our country does not have enough primary sources, or this and that cartoon doesn't present our country in a good light, and so on and so on. We quickly understood that people behind those critics actually have not read our books. So with great patience, enthusiasm and dedication, we managed to lower and in some cases to silence the voices of those who rejected our books. How did we do this? We encouraged them to read the books, we exchanged opinions, we initiated a debate with people responsible for the educational system, and here we are today, with the support of almost all the ministries of education from Western Balkan countries. We are presenting 2 new books which deal with much more sensitive period than those first ones. I'm proud to say that we have succeeded. Our History Education Committee and hundreds of historians across the Southeast Europe have compiled the books, which consist nearly 700 historical sources on the event from 1944 to 2008. Here, I would like to point out that these books do not replace the adopted textbook of national curricula in the region, but serves as additional teaching material for teaching history. The first supporters of this project came almost 20 years ago from far away, from the United States, from USAID, National Endowment for Democracy, and United States Institute for Peace, from Great Britain Foreign Commonwealth Office, and from Ireland Irish Aid. Currently, the project and the 2 new books, which we present to you today, are generously supported by the European Commission, and I would like to express my gratitude and deep respect for those who understood how important these books could be. We are an NGO, one of thousands in Europe struggling for the opportunity to implement tremendous ideas. Our historians are among those thanks to whom history can be called a science. They are not the only ones, of course. Our board consists of people who have been dedicated to democracy and progress their whole lives, and they are not only ones either. Our staff members are tireless and passionate about their work. What all of us as a team have in common is dedication, enthusiasm, and the unwavering belief that things can and will improve. We have worked together for more than 18 years, and the success of this project is based on the winning combination of 3 elements: experts, financial and political support, and unreserved dedication. I would also like to express my gratitude to all the ministries of education in the region who are with us today and who showed understanding and belief that such a project can help their governments and states to progress. Education can set you free. History education in particular can set entire nations and regions free from a heavy past through the simple power of knowledge and critical thought. I'm delighted and proud that at present, 6 ministries of education support our books. As a side note of a more personal nature, I would like to add that we are geographically in the Balkan, but we are lacking European values. I'm from the Balkans. I was born and I grew up there, and I won't turn my speech into my personal story, but I do want to convey a message that there is not a single person who went through these traumatic wars of 90s who did not partly, let me express myself metaphorically, died in some way. We are all aware of the fact that history should not repeat itself, but this must not become a soundbite. These books are a reflection of this. Its methodology will help young people develop critical thought, which in turn will help them grow into European citizens. I would now like to present you with our promotional video of the project, which sums this up in just 1 minute. Do we have it ready? Yeah.
Mi nikada nismo bili krivi.
Η ιστορία μας είναι η λαμπρότερη.
Të gjithë janë kundër nesh.
Ne sme bili vinovni.
Site se protiv nas.
En parlakları bizimki.
Egocentric and ethnocentric approaches to history teaching belong to history.
Koliko malo znamo jedni o drugima.
Të dëgjojmë opinionet e të tjerë.
Bokin!
Čitaj.
Κάντε τη σύγκριση.
The Joint History Project for Southeast Europe to inspire critical thinking and re-examination.
So I'm not a historian, and of course I will not talk about history and history education. Our historians, editors, authors of the books will shortly talk about that, but I would like to show you what we have achieved so far with our books. So we published 6 history workbooks. We printed them in 16,000 copies, 16,000 sets actually, which makes 64,000 books. We translated them from English into 10 other languages. We organized 76 workshops. We trained 2,000 teachers, and nearly 500,000 students reached the books. We did it with the help of 31 donors actually, with the collaboration of 17 partners and 230 contributors. For our achievement, we are awarded by European Parliament resolution in 2009, and by Friedrich Ebert Stiftung, we were awarded with the Human Rights Award. So far, with the generous help of the European Commission, these 2 new workbooks have been published, but only in English. This is what we have been able to accomplish so far. As the GHP is already welcome in most of the Southeast European countries, the respective ministries of education will talk about their reforms, educational aims a bit later, and you will see that our books perfectly fit into what they want to do. We have to do more because we haven't finished our job yet. These books need to be read. They need to be translated into local languages. We need to train teachers to use the books. We need to bring them together in regional workshops and conferences. Based on the existing material, we would like to improve and produce documentaries, cartoons, etc. We would like to connect history teachers together both virtually through a web platform and physically, like when we brought them together, all teachers from Serbia and the region in Vukovar, Mostar, and Preševo. The gathering of teachers must not remain as isolated cases of cooperation, but needs to become a tradition. We want to make a real impact, and we have only just started. We need to continue. Our countries need to progress, and we know they are capable of doing so. But we all have to be patient and persistent. Patient, as it is not easy to connect and reconcile people who were at war against each other not so long time ago, and persistent as it takes time for things to change. This is a process which requires time. I'm certain we can show students how to broaden their views, how to examine context, to explore and develop compassion and empathy. We need to get them out of the comfort zone in order to provide them with a more comfortable life. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you for expressing support by coming today, and thank you very much for your future help. We from the Balkans have succeeded in showing that we can also, for a change, export certain values and examples of good practice. This is our task, and we are proud of it and not ashamed to ask for help to continue what we consider to be a noble, just, and indispensable quest for reconciliation in the region. May the process we have begun be relentless, unfaltering, and unstoppable. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Zvezdana, also for your life. It's sometimes very easy in personal lives to always blame the other, always be the victim, whether you were or not, according to facts. But when you always feel like you're a victim, always the other one is the one who has to change things, never yourself. And it's also a way of not taking power for your own life, or the initiative to change something in your own life and be responsible for what you are. So I think also this thing of changing this perception of what you and the people who came before you did and what the others did, sort of changing that and making it a common story, is what we're going to hear now a bit more by the historians who have been working in this project. And in your program it says a round table. The problem is we had so many, we had planned a different room before which would have had a round table. The problem, but the good thing is we had so many people wanting to join here that we decided to have a bigger room here, so that it's not going to be a round table, but it's going to be something where we'll have Q&A and speaking before, also by my colleagues, parliamentarians who are co-hosting with me. Not everybody has arrived yet. And I will ask now Goran Svilanovic and Zvezdana to leave and ask to the floor up to Professor Dr. Kristina Koluri, history professor, and she's the chair of the History Education Committee, and the series editor of the Joint History Project workbooks, and also Mr. Costa Karas, who is a historian and the rapporteur to the CDRSEE board for the Joint History Project.
Yeah, but may I ask you before we give them the floor, for Mr. Vojažanetic, just for 3-4 minutes.
This opening part of this ceremony. Because there is not so much to see when you see me, I have asked for help, the presentation, so you will hear my text and see the picture, and in that combination you will be able to catch up with one fresh story about our SEE history. There's a lot of Hollywood movies where the hero of the story goes back in time so that he could correct some of the history mistakes, and after that, and because of that, the present day becomes so much better. That kind of movie will never be filmed in the Balkans region. The reason for that is simple. We have so many historical mistakes that one movie and one hero is not enough to correct them all. Back to the Future franchise had one hero and 3 movies. Back to the Balkans future would need 100 heroes and 300 sequels at last. And the time machine would need not to be a car, but a regular bus line with very frequent departures. And the stops along that line would be too many to count. In Southeast Europe, we do not live the history, we manufacture it. And we do it in far greater quantities that we in fact need, so from time to time we export it both to Europe and the entire world. What remains from exporting is in fact a huge untidy pile of historical events which are seen differently from each national perspective. The nations of Balkan can't reach an understanding about common history mainly because they do not have a common view of their history. A history of the Balkans region is a labyrinth and nobody has managed to find a way out it so far, but everybody are calling you to enter it so that you can get a better understanding why is all of that so complicated and entangled for us who live there. Of course, nobody has enough time to waste on that kind of time wasting, and that in fact is the main reason for the history workbooks that brought us together right now. The books about common history in Southeastern Europe are a guide to the past and the maze we talked about. If we were lucky, some hyper-precise Balkan Nostradamus would write and publish them during the last century, and in that case these books would represent guides through our common future of these days till today. They would have a common title, What Could Possibly Go Wrong and How to Avoid It with Utmost Certainty. And let's daydream together that something like that in fact happened. In that case, meeting like this might have happened in Tirana, Sarajevo or Belgrade. And during that meeting, a Brussels delegation would present history workbooks that could help with faster integration of remaining European countries into South European Union. But we already mentioned that it is not possible to return to past, so we will not daydream about an alternative history, no matter how much is that dream attractive to us from Balkans, of course, the blue ones on the picture. So it is impossible to go back in time. Going forward into the future is temporarily on hold. If you don't believe me, you could ask around in Washington and Moscow. In the circumstances like this, the only thing that we have left is to start creating a history of a future. The first step in this direction should be this common history of Southeastern Europe. And when we get some more practice in this, we could share our experience with other European countries. You can believe us, the peoples from Balkan, when we say to you, we have lots of experience in these matters. If you don't write your own history, it will be written by somebody else. To all of us, I wish a very happy trip down the history lane and a happier return to the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, we're a bit in a need for moving on quickly. So there's one of, no, the other way around, please. We want some light, thank you. The dark side was just shortly. The light has come again. One of my colleagues, Mr. Ivan Jakovčić, has to leave us almost now, so I'll give him the floor quickly. As you saw on the agenda, there's 5 colleagues of mine from the European Parliament, from all of us from the pro-European and pro-enlargement groups who have joined me here in doing this. So I'll give the floor to Ivan shortly, and then we go to the historians, and then the others MEPs will have the floor.
Thank you, Ulrike. Just three things. The politicians are writing the history, but I have to tell you the war winners are writing the history, or elections winners are writing the history. After the Second World War, we know the history, but 2015, Mr. Hasanbegović, a Minister of Culture of Croatia, liked to rewrite the history of Croatia. So this is important to know. This is the first message. The second message is practically the second book. It's also my political history because I entered the Croatian Parliament at 91, and I witnessed all these things, what is in this book. So my career started really 26 years ago, something like that. And today I have the birthday. Please understand that it's a very important day for me. And I'm very happy that we have this book, because here is also the history of all countries of the Southeastern Europe. Maybe you can want things to have also good examples, because Istria, where I was president of the region for 12 years, was a very good example in the Southeastern Europe, where I fight for the Serbs, for the Muslims, for the Montenegrinians, for the Albanians, and all these during the war, during the bad situation between Croatia and Serbia, Croatia and the war in Bosnia and Herzegovina and so on. So that was, we have to underline, it was good examples also in Southeastern Balkans, not only bad examples, also good examples. And I think this is also important to underline and to show to the kids in the future that it was also part of ex-Yugoslavia or part of Southeastern Europe with the human rights, fighting for human rights, especially for, in my region, for the right of the Italians to use the Italian language as official language. Tuđman was crazy with me because of that, but this is something what we achieved on the end, and we protect the Italians mostly because we understand that then we will protect the Serbs, the Muslims, and the other people at that difficult times. And then on the end, I want just to underline that I think that this, what it's written here, will be really very helpful for the future, and I'm very happy if also you think that we can participate and help, because the education system is in Croatia also on the regional level, and I will be very happy to host something similar maybe in Croatia to show that we can speak together and that we can have a common language, not because we are a part of the Southeastern Europe, are Slavic, and we understand each other very well, as Vilanovic said, but because I think that it is important to show for the future that we can deal together with the very difficult and hot items. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ivan Jakovčić. And Mr. Yorgos Grammatikakis has